Being connected to your body and the messages it's giving you impacts the choices you make. This may seem obvious, but the pace of life can easily distract you. Today's Q&A shares 3 ways that the moon can support your wellness and ground you into your personal power. Hello, and welcome to the Connect podcast. This show is all about helping you connect to your soul's calling so you can take action on it. Because the sweetest success is a blend of discovering your purpose with the inner drive to bring it to life. I'm Sheila, health coach, lifestyle entrepreneur, and mom of 2, best known for my online wellness programs, mentoring, and self-love passion. Listen in for inspiring interviews, solo chats, and Q&A sessions that will move you past overwhelm towards what lights you up. Stop accepting good enough and go for your version of great in your health, business, and relationships. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to this Q&A episode. I hope you're having a beautiful week. And today I'm sharing some thoughts on moon cycles and wellness. I grew up in the country on a dirt road along the eastern part of the Ottawa River, and I used to love to sit outside and stargaze. The sky would be black with what seemed like millions of stars twinkling. And being in the country, there was not much light pollution. So I especially loved when the moon would be full and shining in all her glory. What I didn't know at the time were all the connections that ancient cultures had to the moon. I simply had never been taught, as my family didn't really know either. And I did learn, though, from local farmers' wives that planting on the new moon, when it was dark, yielded the best harvest. But that was the extent of it. As I entered my 40s, I started to learn more about the moon and how people of the past related it to the different facets of their lives. Then I started hearing the link some made to their feminine cycles, and that got me. I was all about women's health and wellness. So today I wanted to share 3 ways the moon has helped me elevate my wellness. Perhaps this episode can be an encouragement to you on your wellness journey as well. So I'll start with the first way I've found the moon has helped me navigate my wellness is it helps me reconnect to my body's rhythms. It reminds me that my body is nature too, that everything is a cycle, and that I always have a way of recalibrating when I feel life spinning out of control. Science shows that the moon governs the tides of the earth, and with your body being about 60% water, how do you think the moon impacts your body? Probably in many different ways. Most ancient civilizations based their calendar on the lunar cycle. Menstruation and menses means month in Latin, and this root relates to the Greek origin mene, which also means moon. The average menstrual and moon cycle lasts about 29 days. Indigenous tribes like the Ojibwe tribe also refer to the menstrual cycle as moon time. Moon time has been considered sacred. Getting your period meant resting. So maybe you've not thought about it too much because society has taught you to bypass that time of the month as being too inconvenient, or perhaps you were raised to believe that it's a taboo topic. It's amazing that this has happened to so many women, though, because about half the planet cycles in this way, and it is a necessary part of human creation after all. It's been good to see more women embracing this important part of their life experience, though, and treating it as a critical health marker as well. I've been graced with very predictable cycles throughout my life, and I didn't fully appreciate this until I heard so many stories of others who struggled in a variety of ways. Seeing this has fueled a lot of my programs in recent years. As I began teaching on this topic, I was midway through the second half of my perimenopausal journey, and ironically, I began to notice some shifts, like heavy cycles, start happening. I wrote about my experience with iron deficiency earlier this year on my blog. I invite you to go read that. I will put a link in the show notes to it. And my journey has made me more aware and connected to my body and how it functions. And it all started with personal cycles and moon cycles. While I've been working closely with my doctor and OBGYN, I've also been spending a lot more time in nature and getting more rooted in my natural health practices. I've always tracked my cycle, but I became even more intentional about noticing and noting the practices that I was implementing. I began to see where certain foods, amounts of sleep, times of sleep, and time in nature impacted how I was feeling. And while this time in my life is supposed to be shifting, a little bit unpredictable as well, just as it may have been when I first began cycling, incidentally, I've noticed a rhythm return the more time I spent intentionally outdoors at consistent times. There's that connection to nature again. While I can't prove anything scientifically about how the moon influenced any of this, I can say that the moon made me more aware of my part in nature and how I benefit from being amongst the living plants, the fresh air, and the living earth. When artificial light didn't exist and everyone woke with the sunrise and slept after sunset, many women would bleed on the new moon. A smaller percentage would bleed on the full moon. In those times, many communities lived in this way as a community, helping each other and being more present in each other's lives. So those who were needing rest got help from those who weren't in their menstrual phase. They got help with the kids, with the home things, all of that kind of stuff. And in modern times, as we know, artificial light, screens, stress, processed foods, chemicals in our air and water all impact how our bodies function. So women who cycle do so at a variety of times and sometimes at a variety of lengths. And there's just so many different variables at play. As my sleep and wake times have been more consistent over the years, limiting blue light in the evenings, taking early morning light into my eyes each day, I've noticed my cycle shift from bleeding on or near the full moon to bleeding on or near the new moon. It's just interesting to notice. The link between light and our cycles seems to be a thing. Feeling connected to my body's rhythms has helped me to factor in enough rest in a culture that values constant motion and results. If we're not always moving forward, we don't take time to celebrate our achievements or to make sure that we're living and working in a way that still makes sense for our stage of life. Rest is critical for growth. And the dark of the moon, just like our menstrual phase, invites us into that rest to integrate life's lessons, gain clarity, and simply enjoy the stillness that's always available to us when we desire it. The second way the moon has helped me elevate my wellness is it reminds me to live fully into the season I'm in. Like I was saying, whether it's a time of action and high energy or when I have a need for deep rest, I can trust the timing of my life. I find great comfort in knowing that there is a time for everything, a time for new ideas, a time for being high energy and networking, a time for diving deep into focused work and completing projects. There's also a time for rest naturally built into the cycle. And when I do this, I don't burn out. I know when to say yes to what is lighting me up and when to say no. I can be decisive about both because I get to practice every single month as I move from one cycle phase to the next. As I've started loosely planning my life around my cycle, I've had more energy for when I need it most. And I have more grace on myself when my energy is lower, which sometimes happens to all of us. When I'm planning meetings, podcast interviews, or social events, I simply look to my calendar to see where I'll be at in my cycle so I can plan these activities during my higher energy time within the first 3 weeks of my cycle. And when I'm planning deep focus work or completing things, I plan it for the last 2 weeks of my cycle. I always make sure to factor in rest or lower energy requirement activities for my menstrual phase. Of course, life often doesn't line up ideally, but even when I have things planned during the lower energy time, I can build in earlier sleep times, light stretching, and slow strolls instead of like a heavy workout to protect my energy. What has been beautiful to experience is the extra support I get around the house when I ask for it. I love witnessing this in others in my community as well. The moon and my cycle has helped me plan my life better and to ask for support when I need it. The third way the moon has helped me elevate my wellness is it's helped me connect to something greater than myself. As I've gotten back to nature, I see how every piece of it exists to serve the greater whole. Just as the moon shines down and illuminates the night sky for me, so it does for everyone else. As the sun rises to a new day of possibilities for me and those I care about, it does for people everywhere. Noticing the interconnectedness of nature and the cosmos prompts me to notice my part in the greater collective of humanity. We're all here for a purpose. We all have needs. Where one person is celebrating, so are so many others. And where one person is suffering, so are many others as well. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their stories. And that's the reason why I started this podcast. I tend to find myself in conversation when I'm out and about too, wherever I go. One time while I was in a waiting room reading an article, someone started talking to me. She commented on the jacket I was wearing or something. And as the conversation rolled on, she mentioned something about her hair and how she was noticed it was thinning in recent months. It's amazing. People tend to just share the most random things with me. They feel really comfortable sharing with me for some reason. And so I listened. And I could see as I was listening that it was really emotional for her. I asked her if she had any tests done to look into it further, and she hadn't. And she had been trying different shampoos and hair oils to no avail. When she learned I was a health coach, she asked me what I thought could help. And I let her know right away, I don't know what is causing this, but your blood does. I encouraged her to see her healthcare provider and ask for a full spectrum blood test and any other tests they would require as well. There could be any number of things at the root of her situation. She thanked me and said she'd been meaning to call, but had been putting it off. When I first began doing things to improve my wellness years ago, I couldn't help but share what I was learning with others. It seemed like I would find a solution and then I'd want to share it right away. And I guess that's really what started my blog too. Lizzo says, if I'm shining, everybody's going to shine. And I feel that way too. Knowing that what I may be experiencing, others may be going through too, helps me reach out and help others. The moon and her cycles are a beautiful reminder to me of that very thing. Who knew that the beautiful light that shone down through my childhood window on that country road I grew up on would impact my life in so many ways? I really invite you to consider how the moon, nature, can breathe new life into your self-care so you can reap all the benefits in your beautiful life. If you want guidance on how to apply some of what you've heard today into your life so that you can gain traction in your health and maybe even your business goals, join me for private coaching. The framework I've developed includes 3 months of private coaching, 2 60-minute calls per month, Voxer support between sessions. And by the way, Voxer is a private encrypted messaging app, and it's a way for me to stay in touch with you between sessions. We cover anything that you want to cover. So it could be integrating a new habit, moving into a new level in your life or business, elevating a part of your life, or maybe even upholding boundaries, which is very important. We do it in a way that's celebratory, that's gracious, and that is open-hearted. I love how this type of container supports you in being consistent, because when you are consistent by being in touch with me, you can start seeing yourself move forward, and it helps you keep from feeling stuck. Once you get to those places, you can actually get the movement forward that you want because you're not doing it alone. My favorite part, of course, is the celebration piece as you move forward. I really love it. So go to sheilabatello.com/apply to discuss details. You'll also see it linked in the show notes. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Big blessings. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Connect podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Also, if you head over to iTunes to leave a review, I'd be so grateful. Let us know what your favorite parts were and what you'd like to hear more of. It will help us have a greater impact, elevating many more people to grow and succeed together. See you next time.